Living in isolation, Ethan had created a life for himself that revolved around routine and solitude. His days were spent tending to a small garden, hunting for food, and occasionally venturing into town for supplies. His nights, however, were a different story. The nights were filled with the whispers of the forest, the hoots of owls, and the rustling of unseen creatures. Tonight was supposed to be no different. Ethan sat by his fireplace, the crackling wood providing the only source of light and warmth in the cabin. He sipped on a cup of herbal tea, his mind lost in the pages of a worn-out book about ancient civilizations. But this night, the tranquility was a fragile illusion, destined to be shattered. A sudden, piercing light flooded the cabin, blinding Ethan and causing him to drop his book.
What the fuck?
The light was unlike anything he had ever seen. A brilliant, pulsating beam that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Before he could react, he felt a strange sensation, as if his body was being pulled apart and pieced back together in an instant. Then, everything went black. When he regained consciousness, he was no longer in his cabin. The familiar warmth of the fire was replaced by a cold, sterile environment. He was restrained, bound to a metallic table in a room that was both alien and terrifyingly clinical. Panic surged through him as he realized he had been abducted. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he struggled against his restraints, his mind racing to comprehend the incomprehensible. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, his vision blurry and his head pounding. The first thing he noticed was the ceiling, a seamless expanse of metallic surface that reflected an eerie blue light. He tried to move, but his limbs were bound by cold, metallic restraints. Panic set in as he struggled to free himself, but the bindings were strong. Suddenly, he heard voices, not through his ears but in his mind. Alien, unintelligible whispers that sent shivers down his spine. As his vision cleared, he saw them. Creatures unlike anything he had ever imagined. Tall, slender beings with elongated limbs and large black eyes that seemed to pierce through his very soul. They were communicating telepathically, their thoughts blending into a cacophony of alien language. Desperation fueled Ethan's struggle. He thrashed against his restraints with all his might, fueled by an adrenaline surge. The aliens, engrossed in their tasks, underestimated the sheer force of human desperation. With a primal roar, Ethan broke free from his bindings, the metal snapping under his strength. The sudden noise startled the aliens, and they turned their gaze towards him, their expressions unreadable but clearly surprised. He could hear their thoughts now clearer than before. They were shocked, alarmed at the strength of this human. This was their first encounter with a human being, and it was not going as they had anticipated. Ethan's mind raced. He had to escape to find a way out of this nightmare. He stumbled to his feet, his legs weak but his resolve unbroken. He shoved the closest alien so hard they went flying back into another alien, and he made a run to the door. As he navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the ship, he came across another room. Inside, he saw another person, a man, restrained just as he had been, but clearly alive despite being unconscious. Ethan rushed to his side, his hands shaking as he loosened the straps enough for the man to break free when he awoke. He made sure the restraints appeared intact, hoping the aliens wouldn't notice the tampering. With a final glance at the unconscious figure, Ethan continued his desperate search for an escape. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest as he stumbled through the dimly lit corridors of the alien ship. He knew he had to act quickly. More aliens would soon realize he was free. He turned a corner and found himself face to face with one of them. Instinctively, he lashed out, his fist connecting with the alien's slender body. To his surprise, the alien crumpled to the ground, its fragile form unable to withstand the force of his blow. He said,
Piss weak.
Clearly, they were unprepared for a physical confrontation. Fueled by a primal instinct, Ethan's fear turned to aggression. His plan dominate. He roared, a guttural sound that echoed through the corridor, and launched himself at the next alien he encountered. His attacks were wild. He found that the aliens, though advanced in technology, were not equipped to handle his raw, animalistic behavior. Each encounter left him more emboldened, his movements more calculated and predatory. He was no longer just trying to escape. He was hunting them, driven by an urge to instill fear so they would never dare to abduct another human again. Room after room, he searched for an exit, his senses heightened by adrenaline. He found himself back at the door where he had left the unconscious man. Pushing it open, he was met with a gruesome sight. The man was awake and on top of one of the aliens, savagely consuming its flesh. The alien's blood smeared across his face, and his eyes were wild, reflecting a mix of horror and ecstasy. He turned his head and looked Ethan dead in the eyes.
What the fuck are you looking at? Just kidding, buddy. Want a taste?
Who are you?
The man looked up, his face a mess of alien blood.
Name's Rex.
He said between bites.
Seems these things taste pretty good. I'm getting a buzz off it, too. Try it.
Not gonna lie, that's pretty freaky, Rex. I'll hold off for now.
Look, I'm telling you, it's like their flesh is some kind of narcotic. Try it.
Ethan approached cautiously, the sight both repulsive and strangely compelling. He took a bite and within a few seconds he felt a rush. It was incredible. He felt like he could do anything. An understanding passed between them without words. They were in this together, bound by their shared ordeal and newfound hunger.
Let's get out of here.
Ethan said, extending a hand to Rex. Rex nodded, wiping his mouth on his sleeve before taking Ethan's hand and standing up.
Yeah, let's give these freaks a taste of their own medicine.
Not realizing Ethan was actually calling Rex freaky. Together, they began a new rampage through the ship. They were now two freaks and their movements were coordinated and lethal. The aliens, now aware of the danger, were in a state of panic. Ethan and Rex hunted them with a grim determination, their every action fueled by a primal need to survive and dominate. The taste of alien flesh lingered on their tongues. Unfortunately, for the aliens, they wanted more. The ship's corridors became a battleground, echoing with the sounds of the humans' roars and the aliens' desperate attempts to defend themselves. Ethan and Rex moved with deadly precision, attacking and then retreating into the shadows, leaving the aliens in a state of constant fear. They struck quickly and without warning, their primal instincts turning the hunt into a macabre game of cat and mouse. The aliens, driven to desperation, formed a defensive circle in one of the larger chambers. They projected a barrier of intense light, a last-ditch effort to protect themselves from the relentless assault. Ethan and Rex watched from the shadows, their eyes glinting with predatory focus.
Hey, Rex, are you seeing this?
Yeah, how cute. These skinny weaklings are doing magic tricks now.
No magic allowed. Let's get him.
With a shared roar, they charged the barrier. The intense light seared their skin, causing excruciating pain, but they pushed through, driven by a mix of drug-induced stupidity or maybe just stupidity. The barrier shattered, and they fell upon the aliens with a ferocity that left no room for mercy. The chamber was filled with the sounds of battle, the clash of primitive tools against alien technology, and the sickening crunch of flesh and bone. Ethan used whatever he could find as weapons. Pieces of metal, sharp fragments of alien equipment, even his own teeth. His movements were a blur of calculated brutality, each strike aimed to incapacitate and terrify. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, were no match for the humans' primal aggression. One by one, they fell, their lifeless bodies littering the chamber. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat of survival. He felt a twisted sense of satisfaction with each kill, a dark pleasure in the fear he saw in the aliens' eyes. The chamber became a slaughterhouse, the air thick with the metallic scent of blood and the echoes of dying screams.
Rex, do you feel that?
Ethan asked, his voice barely audible over the sounds of battle. Rex grinned, his teeth stained with alien blood.
Yeah, it's like nothing I've ever felt before. Makes me want to keep going to kill every last one of them.
Despite the overwhelming odds, Ethan and Rex fought with a ferocity that bordered on the supernatural. Their bodies were battered and bruised, but they pressed on, driven by a primal urge to kill every last one of their captors. The aliens' desperation grew, their coordinated efforts falling apart as panic set in. The aliens' retreat was chaotic, their disciplined formations disintegrating under the humans' relentless assault. They called for reinforcements, their telepathic cries for help echoing through the ship. But Ethan and Rex were unstoppable, their every move calculated to sow fear and destruction. The ship, once a sterile and controlled environment, was now a scene of chaos and carnage. The humans had become the predators and the aliens the prey. The tables had turned, and the aliens were now on the defensive, trying to escape the wrath of their captives. In the midst of the chaos, Ethan and Rex cornered a group of aliens in a small chamber. The aliens trembled, their large, black eyes wide with fear. Ethan advanced slowly, savoring the terror in their eyes.
"We're not going to stop."
Ethan growled, his voice low and menacing.
"Not until every last one of you is dead."
Rex stepped forward, a cruel smile on his blood-streaked face.
You thought you could take us? Make us your experiments? You have no idea what humans are capable of.
Just as Ethan began to feel the toll of the relentless battle, the ship shuddered, and a new wave of aliens arrived. Reinforcements poured in, larger and more intimidating than those they had previously encountered. The new arrivals moved with precision, their telepathic coordination evident in their synchronized attacks. The reinforcements, though stronger, were not prepared for the drugged-up humans and their animalistic behavior. Ethan grabbed a makeshift weapon, a jagged piece of metal, and swung it with brutal force, connecting with an alien's head. The creature crumpled to the ground, its body twitching. Beside him, Rex roared and leaped onto another alien, tearing into its flesh with a ferocity that bordered on madness. The chamber was a whirlwind of violence and bloodshed. Ethan moved with a singular focus, each strike deliberate and deadly. He could hear the aliens' thoughts, their fear palpable and intoxicating. The reinforcements were falling, their numbers dwindling under the relentless assault.
"Keep going, Rex."
Ethan shouted over the din of battle.
"We've got them on the run."
Rex nodded, his eyes blazing with a mix of fury and exhilaration.
We're not stopping until they're all dead.
Ethan and Rex fought with a savage elegance, their movements a dance of death. The aliens were overwhelmed, their superior numbers and technology unable to withstand the primal fury of the humans. The final alien fell, its body crumpling to the ground in a pool of its own blood. Ethan stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving and his body covered in the sticky remnants of the battle. His ally was beside him, equally battered but victorious. They had triumphed, but the cost had been high. The ship was silent now, the echoes of battle fading into the distance.
Wonder how long this alien high lasts.
"It won't last, but I might have a plan."
Ethan stood victorious amidst the carnage, his body trembling with exhaustion and the lingering effects of the alien blood. The ship's cold, sterile environment was now stained with the evidence of their brutal struggle. He looked around, taking in the aftermath of their rampage. The bodies of the fallen aliens lay scattered, their lifeless forms a stark reminder of the violence that had just occurred. A twisted, eerie monologue began to form in Ethan's mind. He reflected on his actions, the primal urges that had driven him to such brutality. The alien blood had unlocked something within him, something dark and ancient. He wondered if this was what humanity had been at its core, a predator driven by instinct and hunger. The implications of his actions weighed heavily on him, but he couldn't deny the sense of triumph that coursed through his veins. Beside him, Rex grinned, the same dark satisfaction evident in his eyes. They had survived, and in doing so, they had proven that humanity was not to be underestimated. The ship continued its journey through the vast emptiness of space, a silent testament to their victory. As the adrenaline began to fade, Ethan felt the narcotic effects of the alien blood ebbing away. He looked at his companion and saw the same realization dawning in his eyes. They were still alive, still human, but forever changed by the experience. They had tasted victory and the flesh of their captors, and now they craved more.
Where do you think this ship is heading?
Ethan asked, his voice as firm as ever. Rex shrugged, a manic glint in his eyes.
Does it matter? Wherever it goes, there will be more of them. More to hunt, more to eat.
Ethan nodded, a dark smile creeping across his face. The ship continued to drift through space, carrying its two very drugged-out and dangerous human passengers. They had become the predators, and the universe was their new hunting ground. As they sat in the eerie silence of the ship, Ethan turned to Rex.
We need to figure out how to control this thing.
He said, his mind already racing with possibilities. Rex nodded.
Yeah, and once we do, we'll find more of them. We'll keep hunting, keep eating.
Ethan's smile widened.
Let's get to work then. The universe isn't going to conquer itself.
With that, they set off to explore the ship, their minds filled with dark thoughts and their bodies buzzing with the remnants of the alien blood. They had become something more than human, something more dangerous, and they were ready to embrace it. The universe was vast and filled with countless worlds, each one a potential hunting ground. Ethan and Rex were ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead, their primal instincts guiding them as they carved a path of destruction through the stars. They had become the predators, and the universe was their prey.